A lot of times when I talk about our farming system, I talk about how our goal is to have everything be in balance. I think that the type of farming that we're trying to do and trying to mimic a natural system is significantly different than what a lot of people might envision a farm to be. Might not be that different than a farm 50 or 100 years ago, maybe 100 years ago. All farms, if you went to Iowa, they all had an apple orchard. Might have been 10 trees, but they had hogs and chickens and pigs and cows and corn and soybeans, and they grew most of their food. So it was a diverse system, and then we moved away from that to a monoculture.
Well, we bought the land around
1986.
Yes, right at the bottom of the farm crisis.
And then we were exposed for the first time to the ideas of holistic management or holistic resource management. And one of its guidelines calls for crops be grown in polycultures of perennials instead of monocultures of annuals. And I thought chestnuts might work. The benefit of growing these in polycultures versus monocultures, well, for one thing, when you plant a monoculture of anything, it becomes a gigantic magnet for the pests and diseases that live off those plants. By mixing them together, you reduce the potential problems of pests and diseases.
If you look at a cornfield, weeds want to germinate, they want to come up, they want to grow, they want to cover the ground, and that's what basically nature wants to do. It wants to provide cover for the ground at all times, 365 days a year. So as farmers, we need to mimic that. We're establishing around 12,000 fruit and nut trees in our 70 acres of this home farm pastures. We're grazing the alleys of the trees, so it's a very symbiotic relationship for us.
So animals are an integral part of our farming system. There's no place in nature that doesn't include animals as part of a natural system, so we've incorporated chickens and geese and ducks and pigs and goats. Harry'd like to have cattle, and he also tells me maybe at some point he wants bison because that would really be the right animal to be grazing in this area, but I don't think that that would really work with our apple trees.
What are you growing here at Redfern Farm?
We have somewhere between 65 to 75 different crops, all perennials. Chestnut, number one by a wide margin.
Apples and pears and other fruits.
Blueberries.
Pawpaw, persimmon, heartnut.
Serviceberry, which are otherwise known as Juneberry.
Asian pear.
Blackcurrant, aronia, elderberries.
Our gooseberries.
Cornelian cherry, spicebush.
Hazelnuts.
Medlar.
Did you say heartnuts?
Elderberries, aronia berry, honeyberry. Let's see.
I have to read from the list to be able to name them all.
Tom likes to say that if it can grow in Iowa, we've at least tried it.
What I like is so different. It's not corn or soybeans or cows or dairy farm. It's something unique and different that not everybody want to go in because a lot of work and money and not everybody know how to do it. And that's what I like, the challenge of doing the new and different thing that people are not doing.
With these new fruits that are wildly popular in other parts of the world. Like black currants are commonly used even in soda pop and candies and things in Europe, or aronia throughout Eastern Europe. They're even served in hospitals and part of the diet because of their health promoting qualities. And some of the challenges then, these are new fruits to the American palate.
What did the people say today who tried some pawpaws? I was
It's
like,
different.
It's different? Okay. Which is code of, oh God, don't make me eat the whole thing, you know? A lot of this fruit is not what people are used to eating.
It's like our favorite fruit in the States is the banana, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. We don't even grow them here, but that's the most consumed fruit. It's just nuts.
I think when we were deciding what to grow at the very beginning, we got pretty excited when we would look at catalogs or what nurseries had to offer and find out about these different kinds of fruits. Then when we started trying them and got to know like all of the different flavors that exist and are available, we were both really attracted to some of those more unusual flavors.
You know, we grow a lot of stuff that's fairly tart, so I was like telling people that, you know, not everything has to be just ultra sweet if it's a fruit. Try and change that one currant at a time.
But real currants have 4 times the vitamin C of citrus. So they really have a bold flavor, but kind of a Cabernet type flavor, a real richness to them, that once people get used to that flavor, they come back for more.
We have to do a lot of education, and that can be fun. It can be fun to have conversations about how to use this fruit and why it's so great and what we love about it, because we like talking about it. But it can also be exhausting, and sometimes you just don't want to have the same conversation 50 times during the farmer's market. And I think one of the things that has been important to us is figuring out the mix of crops that will let us carve out a marketing niche. And so we have gotten started in the last couple of years doing a CSA-style fruit share. And so having some of these more unusual fruits allows us to fill out the season and create a box that is a little bit more exciting than just apples.
Part of it's building on those relationships, the relationships with the restaurants, with the brewery, with the direct customers that come to our farm and buy 5-pound boxes of fruit.
I know the market is there. The way they are doing it is going through winery before anything else, because the easy way that I can save my berries without having to do too much work.
Most people who know Harry and Jackie Hoch would say they work too hard. And it used to be that was fine because we really liked what we were doing. But when you get up in the morning and you're now 51 years old and you think, oh, that really never hurt before, and maybe I need to figure some other things out, it's tough with issues related to making sure we have health insurance and seeing the bank accounts go backwards. We made the decision that I'd go back to work. And the farm itself, I'm confident can at least break even, but you have to do more than break even.
So financially, right now, the farm is maybe a quarter of our total income. You know, it'd be great if it was half of our income. I think that's a pretty reasonable goal. I'd like to actually exceed that a bit. I don't know where it'll end up.
Oh, I was doing the taxes, so some years we would show an $800 profit. Other years it would be $3,000. Woo! Okay. And other years it'd be a $400 loss. It just was all over the place.
And it's just within the last couple of years that we've kind of turned the corner and we started producing enough on the farm to actually make a living off of it.
And that's something that young people especially should be looking at and aware of when they're going into perennials, is you're not going to have anything to sell for 3 to 5 years. You need to be able to float it. You need to have another job or be growing annuals and selling at a farmer's market while you're putting in perennials.
I didn't want to put all my egg in one basket. So I decided I better put more than one crop just in case. If I don't sell one, I can sell the other one and keep going until I can sell the one that I haven't sold. So, well, I want to be able to be 100% on the farm, to come and don't have to go to work for someone else. Just be here in the farm and make enough money to feed my family and do stuff together, and that will be enough for me.
In 2014, we started the spring with great-looking blossoms on our trees, and we thought we were still on that path toward having a consistent harvest. And then the blossoms started dying. We had frost damage. We were coming out of a really cold winter, and we just watched the apple blossoms and the plum blossoms fall off the trees little by little over the course of a couple weeks, and we realized we were not going to have a tree fruit crop that year, and there was nothing we could do about it. You know, that's a big part
of the risk of fruit growing is the potential for frost damage in the spring. And we knew that, but it hadn't happened to us before. And I think experiencing that was pretty heartbreaking.
Weather is different than it used to be. We could always count on getting an apple crop. We can't always count on getting an apple crop anymore. When people feel that nice warm weather in February and they're running around in shorts and they're smiling and they think this is great, it makes anyone who's growing anything perennial, along with lots of other people, think, oh, I'm not even going to say a bad word, but a bad word about this, because once the apple trees and once the perennials start to think that it's spring, that clock starts. Every year, we have to sit down in the wintertime and talk about the year and say, okay, do we want to do it another year? And people will laugh when I tell them that we do that. Because they say, well, there's no way you do that because you have so much infrastructure, and you've got the trees and you've got this. But it really has to be a conscious decision. Do I want to do this again another year? And I tell people all the time, if this is what you want to do, you're choosing a life. And it isn't going to be an easy life.
Go and try it before you do it. Go out and work on a farm for a couple months. See how you like it. Go to farms that you want to emulate and buy from farms that you want to emulate.
Start with something that has a really good market, is easy to sell for a good price.
And be ready for problems. Have some other way of income for 10 years.
Do things you like. Find a fruit that you resonate with, because you're going to take a lot better care of something if you're enjoying what you're doing, if you're looking forward to that harvest, if you live for those flavors that they're going to provide. You're going to be much more in tune with the needs of that plant.
Don't be afraid. It is hard. We end up playing the lottery because I have to wait 15, 16 hours almost every day. But I think, and I see potential in this kind of fruit. And it is a lot of work, money, but if we keep pushing, going to come the time where we're going to have a successful business with this kind of fruit.
What kept us going over the years, I call persistence, she calls stubbornness. Yeah, you do have to be stubborn to be a tree farmer.
Frustration is waiting and waiting and waiting for these trees to get bigger, tending to them, mowing around them, replanting them, watering them, fertilizing them, and come on, grow. But once they get to this height and you start to get this crop, they're actually out competing the grass. They're shading the grass so you don't even have to mow as much. So it becomes less work for more money. Oh, it's sweet. It's very sweet. And we waited a long time for it too, so.
This spring, just standing in the orchard and looking at it, when it's hard to see the house now because the trees are filled out and they're all in bloom. And it looks like an orchard now, which is pretty cool because less than 10 years ago, it was just a hayfield.
We just had a tour here of young kids to watch the just joy on their faces, tasting things they've never had in their life. And, they are finding handfuls of fruit in plants that we thought we were done harvesting.
I love what I'm doing, so it's like that is my life to grow stuff. That even if I don't see all my berries, and I just see the crop and the plant growing, so that is more good for me.
You are choosing a life, and it can be a very good life. My bank account at many times doesn't look very good, but I've lived a life that I can be proud of. I've lived a life that I like.